This is Carl Schneider with US Ag LLC, and I'm down in south of Dawson, Georgia with Tim Sykes out on his farm. It's August 27th, 2012, and we're checking out the pecans down south, pecans up north. Tim, you were telling me about this is an off year, and last year you had one of the best years you ever had.
Yes.
And the quality wasn't quite there, but the quantity was.
Right. And I think because we had so many nuts on the tree, we didn't get enough water or nutrients to them to fill them out as good as we liked. But still, the poundage was there, and it was just an incredible year.
And on these trees, you've been putting down calcium, you've been putting down humic acid, you've been putting down Mintec,
yeah.
And you've been foliar feeding with C4 and F14.
Yep.
And you've been on this program, this will be your fourth year?
Third year.
Third year, okay. And it's starting to show up now. You're getting your ground producing to the tree producing the nut, got good foliage. And you were telling me about your potassium levels, everything is adequate?
Yes, the potassium levels are higher than they've ever been, and my phosphorus levels are much more adequate. Not as high as they've ever been, but I haven't put out near as much phosphorus as I have in the past, but yet my levels are much better.
And this is an off year, right?
This is an off year.
Okay, and what you're seeing is one of the best off years that you've experienced?
If we don't have any hurricanes and the nuts fill out like they're supposed to, we'll have the best off year we've ever had.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about, have we been having higher insect pressure, lower insect pressure, higher fungus pressure, lower fungus pressure? What do we got?
All disease pressure, whether it's a fungus or insect, has been lower this year. The control on insects has been much better this year than in the past, and our scab pressure, even though we've had more rain this August than I think we've ever had,
right,
is far better than it's ever been.
Okay.
And these are desirables here, and they're prone to scab bad.
So
one of the worst scabbing nuts.
We've actually seen scab stop on the nut. Isn't that what you were saying earlier?
Yes. We've had, if I can find some, we've had some places where I've seen it just burn it off the nut. And it still leaves a scar on the nut. But see, now we got to have trouble finding the scab, so that tells you one thing right there. See, that scab on that nut's been dried up.
Okay.
You can start to see the black turning to brown at the end of the little finger there on that spot, and that spot right there. And that scab deformed it just a little bit, but that nut's still going to make a good nut.
Okay. And now that's not normal, is it? I mean, to get rid of the scab?
No, it's very hard. Basically, our fungicides are preventative. None of them are really a curative. But when you get a nut like this, and it's got nothing on it, it's got no scab.
Right.
So to have desirables, most of your desirables not have any scab on them at all, is incredible.
Right.
And see, you're having a hard time finding scab.
Right. Right. And it has been raining, right?
Oh yeah, I've got more rain this August than I think I have ever on my records since I've been farming here, and that's been since '04.
So last year you got almost 2,000 pounds per acre,
yes,
just shy. And this year on an off year, what are we looking at, just roughly? I know it's a guesstimate, but...
my best off year has been 105,000 pounds, which is really not good.
And that's on a total of how many acres?
165.
165 acres.
But this year, I'm thinking we're going to be around the 150 to 175.
Okay.
especially if the nuts fill out as good as what they were looking like.
Right, and it looks like it's going to be quality too.
Right, and that's where you're going to get your weight.
So if I could pull these in up here.
I've got probably a week's worth of work just to clean up branches that have broke due to weight. We hadn't had any storms.
So that's the bad thing.
Well, that's the downside of having heavy pecans.
All right, I appreciate you talking with us, Tim, and overall, you'd say you're satisfied with what we're producing for you?
Yes, the product I think works well, and it enhances whatever fertilizers I'm spraying on the tree, gets them in the leaf,
Better.
and allows my leaf numbers to look much better than what they have in the past. Oh, that's a mess. You see? They're already filling out with meat.
Right.
They're still going to
And
continue.
this is still August.
Yeah, it's still August. And that's going to wind up filling out real good because you still got some moisture in that meat.
Right.
As long as we keep the water to it.
Right.
Spray another round or two fertilizers. They'll fill out real good.
Yeah.
5 in that cluster and 3 there and 3 there.
Right. And because of the efficiency of getting into the tree foliar, you've been able to back off quite a bit on foliar feeding, right?
That's right.
And that only makes sense if you can get it into where it needs to be. Now these are low limbs, so they would have fungus on them, but even them has stopped, right?
Yeah, they've got some, but it's drying it up. They don't get sprayed as much now that they're hanging down below my sprayer's calibration.
Right.
You can see right here where it's dried the scab up.
Right. So you're used to losing these lower nuts, and if we can keep it dried up, then you're going to get these as a bonus, right?
Yep. There's where I had a good spot of scab. Sprayed it with fungicide with F14 in it, and it pretty much eat the scab off of it.
So it went from being a preventative to being a stopper.
Almost a curative on it.
October 31st, 2012, we're back out with Tim Syke on Tim Syke Farms, looking at the pecans, pecans north, pecan south. Tim, we're shaking trees, and this isn't the final, but how's it looking?
So far, it looks pretty good. Quality seems to be consistent, and quality seems to be very good. So the weight, we'll have to see in a few more days. Once we get them graded out and weighed in the bag, we'll see what the weight turns out to be.
How's the taste on them this year?
They taste real sweet. They got a buttery flavor to it.
Now we know that 2012 was an off year, and the trees have on years, off years, for those that don't know that. So, being an off year, basically, what do we got for numbers?
Basic numbers look like 180,000 pounds off 165 acres.
Okay.
And the previous off year, we had 105,000 pounds. So we had that big of an increase.
Wow. Wow. Okay, and basically the things that we were doing was humic and Mintec and put out some calcium just to keep everything flowing in the soil. And then we were foliar feeding with F14.
Correct.
Okay.
It's the nutrient program,
Right.
I believe, that's made the difference. Quality on the pecans this year is probably as good as we've had. And the taste was phenomenal, and all the customers loved the product.
So overall then, with the off year, you're happy?
Oh yeah, it was by far the best off year. Poundage and money.